Hello, everybody. I'm back at it again. It's another day, it's another time to speak about something important. This time, I didn't get something from the news per se, but I got something that was interesting. It was interesting, and I think I want to talk about it. I advise people to watch it, but I'll put the description on the link below. What I want to talk about right now is the recent Konvo episode with Penyo the Black Pen and Phapano Pasha. Right? Did I pronounce that correctly? Yes, I pronounced that correctly. Phapano Pasha. What I got from that sit down was she's very knowledgeable. She's very knowledgeable, and she has an analytical mind. What though I will say is some of the things she said were a little bit outrageous. And because I wasn't sure about whether or not what she's saying is what is actually true or fact, I went and fact checked some of these things. And obviously, I was right. It is outrageous. There's some things you just, it's not possible. I can't believe she said that. But at the same time, she made it seem so believable. She made it seem so believable, like the confidence in which she said the thing she said. If you don't fact check for yourself, you will be misled. So I got notes and I wanna go through with what she said, and then I'm gonna counter with my arguments and bring the facts to the table. So let's get started. So here's the thing, I'm not gonna go through the whole episode. It was an hour and a half episode going to 2 hours. I'm not gonna go through it. I just wanna go through the part where I'm like, this is an important question, and I think it should have been answered more responsibly. So I've got notes as usual, and I'll be referencing through my notes as I'm giving these explanations, arguing my points. But at the same time, I'm gonna go through what she said and what Penyo said in response. So the topic on the show was, do we have African leaders who are in control? That was the question that was posed to Papano Pasha. And her answer was that that was a disingenuous analysis of African politics. Um, she went on to answer and say that the realities are that African countries don't trade with each other. She then goes on to say that that's why in Burkina Faso, Ibrahim Traore went to Russia and not any African state. That's why he gave mineral concessions to Russia instead of any African country. That's what she said. Those are her justifications, but that's what she said. And then weird response for Penuel to give. Weird response. It's a justifiable response because I think it was getting her to think in a certain type of way, a certain type of alignment, rather than to confront this head on with facts of everything on a broader perspective. Maybe he was trying to narrate, control her thoughts, narrate what she was gonna say. Penuel went on to say that every African country is colonized by the West, whether it's the USA, whether it's France, whether it's the UK. One of these countries has their hands in an African country, in an African state. That's why he chose Russia and not these other countries in Africa, because trading with these countries in Africa would be equal to just trading with the West. I don't know why he answered the way he answered again. I think he was trying to narrate her thoughts towards a certain type of answer because he knows better. He literally knows better. He could have answered this better, answered this differently. But but yeah, but yeah. Let's move on. Let's carry on. Now she went on to say a lot of other things, which I think some of the things, it was outrageous. But then I want to focus on these parts here a little bit, and I'll come back to the others. So here's the thing. Here's the thing. The first question she had, the first question, the first question she had, it's the first response she had, rather. The first response she had of it was just a disingenuous analysis of Africa, and then said that African countries don't trade with each other. That's not true. That's not true at all. Okay, African countries do trade with each other. Okay, I've got notes. I'm gonna go through the notes. Let me go through the notes, right? So here it is. African countries actively trade with each other, although the level of intra-African trade is historically lower than the trade with other countries like Europe, like your Asia. It's below its potential. So don't say that we're not trading as African countries. Rather say that we are not trading at its highest potential, at the potential that other Western countries, other developed countries are trading at. She could have said it, she could have said it like that instead. But to say that African countries don't trade with each other, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. That's a little disingenuous. But let's go on to the next one. Let's go on to the next one, right? So, examples of trade between African countries. I want to say these examples and I want us to go through them so that there's an understanding that what she said has no basis. There's too much happening. There's too much happening. But here are the examples, right? We have South Africa and Botswana. South Africa and Botswana, these two countries trade with each other, okay? And it's not that one side trades and the other side just receives. No, they trading. Both sides sell and buy from each other. Here's the go down, right? We export from South Africa to Botswana. We export vehicles, machinery, electronics, and processed foods. Okay, and then there's Botswana to South Africa. They export beef, coal, diamonds, and soda ash to South Africa. Okay, so it's not a thing of we don't trade. We do trade with each other. And we do trade even further up north. Africans do trade with each other. It's not something you can just say like that. Another example is Nigeria and Ghana. Okay. When you look at Nigeria, it exports to Ghana crude oil, petroleum products, cement, and manufactured goods. Okay. And we know that your cement is Dangote. And that's like what Africa's richest man. Let's not say certain things. Let's not say certain things. And when you look at Ghana to Nigeria, we have cocoa products, processed foods, and minerals. So these people are trading with each other. Okay, they both buying and selling from each other. It's not one-sided. But there's more. There's more. We have we have Ghana and Nigeria. Oh no, wait, no, no, no. Let me find it. We have Kenya and Uganda. Kenya and Uganda also trade. They trade processed foods, they trade pharmaceuticals, they trade, they buy and sell from each other. Another thing, there's also services. There's not just things like goods. There's also services. When you look at what is this? Nigerian bank UBA and Zenith have a strong presence in Ghana. And Ghana attracts Nigerian students and medical tourists. So when you look at it, even services, there is a trade-off between both countries, between African countries. What she said was not true. She shouldn't have said what she said. African countries do trade with each other. It's just not at its potential. We could be doing more. It would be great if we had a train that went from Cape Town all the way to Nigeria. One train that went all the way. That would be something. That would be something. Now, on to the next bit where she's like, that's why they went to Russia. You need to understand that there's a plan that this man is doing. Okay, Ibrahim Traore has a plan. He is unified with Mali. He is unified with Niger. They made the AES allied allied somethings of Sahel. They made what is it called? Um, what is it called? A united front. That's what it's called. They made an alliance, a united front as countries, as African nations, and then they went to Russia. So for you to say that they went to Russia because they're not trading with African states, African countries, is not true. Okay, there's more to it. This man has a plan. He's building something. So the breakdown. Okay, the breakdown. Here are the notes. Ibrahim Traore's outreach to Russia complemented his plan to create a unified front against Western influences in the Sahel region. This was not as a thing of okay, now that we are allied together as forces, we have what it takes to what cause thing to confront France, to confront America. They still understood that they needed a superpower. And when you look at it, Russia is one of the world's superpowers, and aligning with them can pose as a deterrent to stop opposition military forces from invading Burkina Faso. So, the way I see it, for her to then say that's why he went to Russia and gave them mineral concessions instead of any African state is not it's the wrong way to look at it. That's the wrong analysis. Okay, the point that Ibrahim Traore is trying to push here is that the West, the Western agenda, is not welcome. He's not saying that there's not gonna be any superpower acting their influence on the country, but rather he says that from what I understand, rather his fight is to get a better deal for Burkina Faso that the West is not going to give them, and it looks like Russia is going to give them. It's just about getting a better deal. This is just business politics. He's getting a better deal. The man has a plan. So she then went on to say, Phapano Pasha, she then went on to say that when you look at deportation rates in South Africa versus other African countries, she doesn't understand why things are the way they are in our country versus when you look at other African countries, you will get deported. My thing is again she wasn't being practical about certain things because she knows certain things, like she has an understanding of certain things. It's not a thing of she had to say certain things. Was it maybe she didn't understand what was being said, or maybe she was saying a lot and it was getting difficult to keep track of certain things that she was saying. I don't know. But she knew better. She knew better. When you look at why deportation is the way it is in South Africa, you have to understand certain things. Okay, business is benefiting from illegal foreigners in the country. Okay, if they were not benefiting, if they were losing, it was going to be a different case. We were going to see different actions by our police services. So, part of the real reason why foreigners in South Africa are not deported is because they provide cheaper labor than South African citizens. Okay, and as illegal foreigners, they have no worker rights and can be easily exploited. The rights South Africans have, the privileges, foreigners do not have. So, business in pursuit of cheap labor, keeping labor costs low, they employ foreigners and exploit them, overwork them, and then underpay them. And all of this is allowed to happen because at the end of this injustice, the foreigner cannot then go to any legal body to go get justice. Because why? They are an illegal foreigner in the country. So business then can milk the most profit from this one individual who came for a supposedly good future. But for her to then go on to say what she said, it doesn't make sense. She knows better. She understands why things are the way they are in the country. As she carries on, as she carries on, she then goes on to say that because now it's targeted, because now she's targeting some African nationals, but she then goes on to say that foreign nationals in South Africa don't represent themselves. Targeting Nigerians, saying Nigerians in South Africa don't represent themselves. I beg to differ. That is not true. That is not true at all. Look at Hillbro. Look at Hillbro. You can't say Nigerians don't represent themselves. Like that doesn't make sense. And another thing is when you look at there's a case. There's a case earlier this year that happened with your Chidima Adechina, right? A Nigerian, Mozambican, South African. What is this person? Is she Nigerian? Is she Mozambican? Is she South African? You don't know. You don't know. This person was representing Nigeria in South Africa. What do you mean she's not represent the Nigerians don't represent themselves? Like South Africa, we're not that country. We would not go up against people being proudly who they are and then just start coming at them the wrong way. That's not how we operate. Okay, things out here, from what I understand, people do what they want to do. And for as long as authorities are not there to stop you from doing it, you can get away with it. From what I've seen, literally from what I've seen, if the authorities are not there to stop you from doing whatever you want to do, you can literally get away with it. I know I've been ranting. I know I've been saying a lot. But again, I said it was an interesting thing for me to go and watch. I wanted to talk about it. There's more she said. There's much more she said, but some of it is true. You get to see what I said in the beginning, that she has an analytical mind. She understands some of the things she's saying. So, I think that was a great episode. Um, I think that she could have gone there more prepared. And there's nothing wrong with saying you don't know. I think there's nothing wrong with saying you don't know. If you don't know something, you don't know. Or if you want time to get a good answer, rather say it so that we can understand that, okay, there's gonna be that silence while you're constructing that answer. But other than that, it was a top notch episode. Very smart woman, very knowledgeable. Um, I just hope that the next time she goes onto the show, she says things that are more true and less outrageous. But yeah, yeah. Anyway, that's my 2 cents on the matter. Yeah, on to the next one. I'll catch you guys another time. Cheers. Appreciate you guys watching. I'm out.